Hello, welcome to Graphic Policy Radio. We're the comics podcast and geek culture show for people who not only watch movies like Wonder Woman, but actually have debates about them where we talk about things like race and gender and World War I history and explosions. So I'm really excited to have some guests joining us on the show today. I have two guests, and I will be joined by Kedra Cheney, and she's the co-founder and publisher of The Learned Fangirl, a website that amplifies marginalized voices in media criticism and fandom scholarship. Did I say this is a Wonder Woman podcast? Because I hope I did. I'm not usually the main host on this. Wonder Woman is the topic of our tonight's show. We'll be talking about the movie predominantly, but we'll talk about some comics as well. And this will definitely be 100% full of spoilers, so go out and watch Wonder Woman, come back and talk to us after you've seen the movie. So as I was saying, Kedra is the publisher of Learned Fangirl. Learned Fangirl. Kedra is currently a strategist for the Culture Lab's Cultural Pulse Project, which connects organizers and progressive change makers with online pop culture communities. And she and I are actually organizing a Wonder Woman tweet chat for hashtag Pop Politics Chat. That's going to be on June 21st. And also joining me is returning guest Desiree Rodriguez. She is a pop culture critic who has written for Women Write About Comics, The Nerds of Color, and is the co-host of the DC TV Classics podcast. And she's the editorial assistant for Lion Forge's Catalyst Prime and Comics Initiative, which we discussed on the last episode of the podcast. So Kedra and Desiree, hello.
Hi. Glad to be back. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And then one thing I realized I should start doing is so people know who's who when we're speaking. Desiree, say hello. It's Desiree.
Oh, y'all will know my voice. I'm the squeaky one.
And Kedra, say hello.
Hi, I'm Kedra.
Excellent. And I'm the one who sounds like me. So, you know, the Wonder Woman movie obviously is a huge commercial success, making tons of money for all those rich men who funded it. And Wonder Woman has also been a big critical success. It has an incredibly high, 98 or 99% positive score on Rotten Tomatoes. For me, I really did like the movie, but not unreservedly. And I don't think we do movies or fandom service when we say we like it and we don't say why and we don't discuss how it could be better or what could be different. So really wanted to talk today about, with two folks who are also big geeks and would have good critical analysis of the movie, particularly where it has social impact and importance, not just as being DC Comics' first major female superhero-led movie, but just being a women in action film and a comics movie as well, and how the movie handled issues like race and sexuality and war and lots of stuff. So let's just begin by saying in general, did you enjoy the movie and did you think it was a good movie, which isn't necessarily the same thing? For me, I did enjoy the movie and I thought it was a good movie, but like I said, I have some reservations. What about you guys?
Well, I can start. This is Kedra. I said earlier I gave it a solid 3.5 out of 5, and I actually said this on Twitter when I saw it on Friday night. I did enjoy it. I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. But for me, because I have a very complicated history with DC movies, I think as a lot of us do, it's definitely the best DC cinematic universe movie so far, and that's awesome. But I did have some issues, it did not change my life as a feminist. I came away with some critiques. I saw it with a friend, my bandmate, and she's a big Wonder Woman fan, and we just spent a lot of time, during the movie, talking about kind of the sketchy portrayals of race and ethnicity. She's Middle Eastern. She did not like that character. I thought the Apache Chief character, I think I don't know for sure, but I thought there were great moments with him, and then it was a double-edged sword in terms of portrayal of that character. I just felt like on a portrayal of race lens, it was lacking, but no more lacking than most comic book movies. So I didn't think that it was any worse when it came to that. But I did enjoy it. I thought the action scenes were fantastic. I thought Gal Gadot was good. I'm super happy that Patty Jenkins gets an opportunity to continue this, because I was thinking it's like the Russo brothers. Like, they had an opportunity to start with Captain America, but they got an opportunity to kind of tell more stories, which is what a director should have with that. And so I'm glad that it's done well enough so that Patty Jenkins can continue to build on top of the world that she created. And so for that, it's a super win. But I did not come away like, my life has changed. Like I know people were crying and whatnot. That was not that movie for me, but I'm glad it was for other people.
I hear you, definitely, on a lot of those fronts. What about you, Desiree?
Yeah, to second a lot of what Kendra said, like, I mean, I'm a huge fan of Wonder Woman. I work part-time in a comic shop, so everybody was like, you must be so excited, and, for Wonder Woman, et cetera, et cetera. And I definitely am. I did really enjoy the movie. I should, put a disclaimer and be like, I like the DC movies. I know they're polarizing and justifiably polarizing, I don't believe that there's, a DC conspiracy or anything like that. But yeah, so I did enjoy the movie. I enjoyed the themes. I enjoyed some of the concepts. I agree that it, save for the fact that it's the first, obviously it's breaking records, and it's the first, female superhero movie to have a female director and such, so it breaks ground in that. But yeah, like Keidra said, it didn't do as much as it could have done as far as representation wise. I enjoyed Samir, I enjoyed Chief, I enjoyed Charlie, I enjoyed the play on the stereotypes, which was purposeful, and then revealing little bits of how they subverted those in their little backstories. So some of those moments were great. I loved the Amazons. I was a really happy bisexual, let me tell you. But I wish we got more of them. And yeah. I would hope that since this is doing so well, and since we do have a sequel, apparently planned and come on, WB would be pretty silly to not take advantage of their first critical success. So there's a lot of room for improvement as far as especially where the Amazons go, because as far as because we've had a lot of properties with white women at the center. There's no shortage really of that right now, I don't feel. Yeah. And so I like that Artemis was played by Ann Wolfe, who is gorgeous, such a crush.
She was the
Artemis
woman
is such a huge character.
Super strong. She's like a professional boxer for folks who don't know. She's amazing.
Yes. Oh my, she has really pretty eyes. I noticed that right away. So, but since Artemis is such a huge part of the Wonder Woman lore and stuff, if they cut out the mascara, it would be a huge missed opportunity. And especially because they, you did see these Amazons that were, diverse in the culture, but they didn't have big roles, you know, and that was disappointing. So if and when a sequel is made, one of the biggest improvements I think that they could definitely and should definitely make is improving on that front specifically. Because if Wonder Woman is supposed to be pushing the boundaries of, feminist representation and such, her stories need to be driven in that direction, to where women of color can also be included in those narratives and shown to be important and a part of her story.
I agree. I mean, I thought Robin Wright's performance as Antiope was tremendous, but there was literally no reason to have all of the main Amazons be white women. Literally no excuse and no reason. I'm glad that they gave Ann Wolfe a named character rather than just having her be in the background. They hadn't released her name at first. And Artemis is, a rival, but in a good way, of Wonder Woman in the comics, which means that she's a character that has a lot of personality and history to work with. And, the actress they cast as Philippus is this, she's playing a senator in the movie. And for comics fans, we know, at least for a number of decades at this point, that Philippus is basically the queen of the Amazon's wife, right? Like Diana's mother's wife is Philippus. So it'd be really nice to have that made completely clear and not something that people are going to have to go and debate whether or not it's in the movie or not. And, you know, those are two Black characters who could have a much bigger role in a future movie and really need to, frankly. And it was just so stupid to not give them more lines in the movie to start with.
What I noticed about it was that it had a lot of women of color here, and they had one, but it was still to support the white characters. So it's like, okay, this is great. Like, this is where the representation, the discussion about representation, it's more than just being there and having some lines. Mm-hmm. It's whether your character actually has impact and is actually an independent, autonomous character that has their own story and their own reason for existing. Or I actually really like the first half of the night, or the first 30% quarter of the movie than I did when it finally got into like World War One. I don't know. For me, I just felt like for Wonder Woman 2, it's got to be more than lip service. Like, having women of color actually have some lines is not representation. It's tokenism at the end of the day. And there's got to be a lot from that if it's going to mean anything. And I thought Robin Wright was great. But, I still feel like there's a lot for improvement for actual workers of color, just in general. And I don't want to pinpoint out Wonder Woman, because I think the movie and their comic book movie that's out right now in terms of representation. It did no better and no worse. But it's just noticeable, I think, because of the idea that, a win for white women is a win for all women, and that kind of gets that whole song and dance gets repeated when it comes to not just Wonder Woman, but just in general pop culture. I think it's important to say, no, it's actually not quite, because there's an opportunity there. You've got the characters, you've got the backstory, you've got the opportunity to do something. And I think of it more like Thor. I'm a Marvel person, so Wonder Woman is more like Thor for me, where you like you've got this like mythological backstory that you can just go deep in. So it's like you have an opportunity to really do some fun stuff with that. It doesn't necessarily have to be centered around modern times, Justice League and a whole bunch of white dudes. Like, it could be woman centered and be awesome. And with women of color as
absolutely
in the mix. So I that's what I want. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. But there's the opportunity, and that's really great.
Yeah, and speaking of the opportunity, one of the things that I think the movie did make big progress in, and I don't want us to lose this opportunity by not talking about it more, is in terms of representation of lesbian and bi and other just not straight women. When I first found out that they were casting Chris Pine as Steve Trevor, I was really bummed out, because I knew that they were only going to cast a major actor in that role if they were going to make a big deal about Steve Trevor. And I was like, Wonder Woman needs Steve Trevor like a fish needs a bicycle, etc. And that was not, I didn't want a Wonder Woman movie to have this guy taking up all this airspace and narrative weight. And I was frankly worried that having a relationship with him would mean that they would characterize her as heterosexual. What ended up happening, though, is actually, she does have a romantic interest with Steve Trevor, but in no way should we as viewers interpret her conduct or the Amazon society at large in the movie as being in any way heterosexual. And it was funny to me because, I myself am bisexual, and I was dreading having Wonder Woman kiss a man on screen, because I thought that would make any possibility of her being seen as queer not be apparent in the story. And of course, here am I, like a bisexual woman who's married to a man, and I'm always complaining about how my sexual orientation is rendered invisible in people's eyes. And I put together. I have a piece that I wrote, some comics beat, and you can get it on my Twitter, called "Thank Goddess Wonder Woman Isn't Straight," towards a better DCEU. And it's that, between the scene that she has talking about how men are not necessary for pleasure with Steve Trevor on the boat, and the very obvious wife of Antiope who runs over to go mourn her when she's killed in battle, it's clear that Amazon society has romantic and sexual love. The only people there are women, therefore they're having it between women. Wonder Woman having a kiss with a guy in this movie does not preclude her having had romantic or sexual relationships with women beforehand or after. Now, I really wish the movie had gone and made the fact that the women are in romantic relationships with each other on Themyscira be blindingly clear, because we live in a society where unless somebody seriously looks at the camera and shouts, "I am a lesbian," people will always question or doubt it or try to have other readings of it. But I don't think that going and complaining about the movie making Diana straight is actually legitimately creating bi invisibility. This is my reading of it. If you say that because Diana kissed a man, she's straight, you're basically saying that when women kiss men and you don't see them also kissing women, that they're also being read as straight. If we want to have better representation in future movies, it's better for us to talk about how this movie actually gives us a perfect opportunity to have Diana be more clearly bisexual in future movies, and have the Amazon society be more demonstrably homo-romantic in their relationships in future movies as well. So I also don't want to say that this movie was great LGBTQ representation, because it's not. The fact that I have to explain this to people means that it's not great LGBTQ representation. But there have been so many Wonder Woman products and things in the past that have gone out of their way to make the Amazons not be queer, which is insane and impossible, that the fact that the movie actually leaves plenty of space for them to be queer, and in fact reading them as heterosexual is preposterous, is definitely a step in the right direction. So I apologize for that long rant, but I think it's really significant. And I think that if you are a comics fan or a movie fan like myself, and you want to see more LGBTQ representation in our movies, we should talk about the movie and what it does and doesn't do for LGBTQ representation, but don't call Diana straight. That's actually a problem. And I know, Desiree, you're bi also, so I don't know if you agree with me, but I'd love to hear what you think.
I agree. Honestly, Steve Trevor is either boring or he's annoying. When I heard about Steve Trevor being in the movie, and I'm sorry to all Steve Trevor fans out there, from the comics or from the animated movie, but I did not like him in the animated movie. I thought he was obnoxious. He was annoying. He was a frat boy. I didn't like him. Just no. And in the comics before, the recent Rebirth run, I just didn't care. Diana had more interesting relationships with plenty of other people, men and women. One of my favorite episodes of the Justice League cartoon is one where I can't remember the name of it right now, but where she meets up with that princess, and they have a night on the town, and I was like, yeah, no, she's bisexual. Come on now. And I'm 14 or something thinking this. And so, yeah, when I saw the movie, I was concerned, and I do agree that, they need to make it more explicit, because there are always going to be people that argue that, oh, it's just subtext, or, oh, you're reading into it too deeply, or not everything has to be gay, et cetera, et cetera. It's just really obnoxious. And it's okay, well, let me point to you the whole library of straight rom-coms, and then come back and talk to me about how, these tiny little scraps that I want to be, not straight. It's so troubling you. I'm feeling snarky tonight. So yeah, I do think that they need to make it a little more explicit, but I liked what Brett Rutter recently did in the Rebirth run by just acknowledging, subtly that these women have relationships with each other, and for them it's just a normal part of their lives. There's no questioning it. There's no debate about it. It's just the way they live. Like, Hippolyta and Philippus, they have just these forehead touches that are very charged, and that these women are together. Like, the two of them have a relationship, and you have to be like really obtuse and purposely so to be ignoring that. Or the part where Steve asked her, I wish I could remember that issue number, I should have wrote it down. But he asked her explicitly, did you leave someone behind in Themyscira? And she said yes, and she says a woman's name, and like that right there, showcases it perfectly. So I think something like that in a follow-up movie, whether it's her own or in Justice League or whatever, like, something simple like that, and you can establish it right off the bat. And I know Gal Gadot is in favor of it, so that's nice. And I think it's about time, for a comic book movie to do that. Like, DC actually has a lot of opportunity right now for quite a few of their characters, because Diana is explicitly bi in the comics, Catwoman is, Harley Quinn is, Constantine is, and apparently all those characters are going to be in, or already are in, movies. So they have a lot of opportunity here that they should be taking. And with Diana being their biggest character, like, you want to push the envelope, you want to do something new, like, make it explicit. Like take that chance. And I would hope that Patty would or wants to. I mean, she did, to my knowledge, write the foreword to the Love is Love anthology that DC and IDW put out. So I would hope that, like, that awareness is there, and that hopefully that speaks to her wanting to pursue that down the line for Wonder Woman's, future stories, if she's still attached to them in the future. So to cross my fingers, I think it's there in this movie, but it's too subtle, and like, let's just be honest with it, like, come on, this is Greek mythology here, like, please.
Yeah.
I thought that Patty Jenkins was already signed off for Wonder Woman 2. I could be wrong. I saw that on my timeline this morning, but thought it was from an actual reliable source. But now I'm second guessing it, if who knows these days. But I thought she was already signed up for sure for Wonder Woman 2, so that would give her an opportunity to move forward.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she is. I'm pretty sure I saw that, or something similar to what you saw, like. But, Hollywood, who knows? Like, I feel like WB would be really dumb to be like, no, let's not give her anything she wants. And, next time she does a movie, hopefully they give her a bigger budget to work with, too. Because they really stretched their sin with this one.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to say really quickly, though, I was so weirdly impressed and happy that they killed off Steve Trevor. I was like, shit. Like, I didn't know they were going to do that.
And
I did end up like,
it was a great death too. I mean, like, even if you love the character, I feel like it did him justice. He really actually saved the day, did something tremendously brave. And I mean, I just think back about, this is sort of my interpretation of this, the scene that he has with Wonder Woman in the underwater cave on Themyscira, and she's talking with him about his watch, and it's all, you let that watch tell you what to do in terms of the time of day, and it's also like a metaphor for his dick, because he's looking, they're both looking at the watch, and he's covering his dick, and which, by the way, I thought that scene was played wonderfully. The fact that actually pulled out was a choice that most movies would not have even made. But the fact, though, he hands over his father's watch, right? So this is his dad's watch. It's a symbol of masculinity. It's handed down to generations. When he's about to sacrifice his life to save countless lives, he hands Wonder Woman the watch. We don't hear what they're saying to each other, but later it flashes back, and he says that he loves her. And his whole delivery of it is completely believable and real. Like, as much as I don't I didn't want Steve Trevor to be in the movie, and if he was going to be there, like, why is it another white man? But, like, if it was going to be that, like, I think he did a good job. Really shows, like, he believes in her and her strengths. And the things that he likes and supports about her are not all being cutesified or fetishized, which would have been the case with a lot of other roles. And he gives her the watch, so he's handing over his masculinity, like, to her to, like, move forward and lead with. I thought that was really touching.
I walked away from that film, like, totally shipping them. I was like, wow, they got me. Okay. Like, and I really attribute that to Chris Pine, because, like, I don't really watch any of his movies. Like, you know, everybody's like, oh, Princess Diaries too, and I'm like, I always forget he was in that because he has, like, dark brown hair. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that's Chris Pine.
I saw that movie, and then, like, years later, I was like, that's Chris Pine. So
like, you know, and it's not even his fault, but I totally did not like. It's not his fault, but, like, I totally didn't like Captain Kirk in the first two, like, Star Trek movies, the recent ones. Like, I only liked him in like Star Trek Beyond, because in the first two he was just kind of like a frat boy. But I
hated Chris Pine for years because of the first two Star Trek movies. Like, I actually had a grudge against him for years because of those movies, and only recently have I gotten over that and looked at him for what he is as an actor, as opposed to you ruined Star Trek for me. So I get that.
No, I totally blame Abrams for that. And all those weird. So yeah, like, when he was cast, I was like, you know. But then he had chemistry with Gal, and then, like, the way their relationship was written and developed, you know, he never felt patronizing. He never, like, purposely objectified her. Like, everybody knew she was beautiful, but like, it wasn't to her detriment. You know, like, he never, like, he treated her like an equal. And, you know, it's a great point about the watch and such. And, like, the relationship was so, like, soft and subtle. Like, you know, like the snow scene and them dancing, and then that whole room scene, and we're like, you know, they totally did it. You know, but it was played so nicely, and he brought, like, such a great, like, softness to the character, you know, so he didn't come off like this macho man where he had to teach Diana about, like, the world and stuff, and, like, you know, he had to teach her, like, you know, well, like, reverse sexism and things like that, Diana, and it's like, no, screw that. Like, he was like, no, she's going to go ahead and she's going to fight some bad guys, and we're going to follow, and then I'm going to, like, take a point off the Amazons and do the SHIELD thing. Like, yeah, let's do this. Like, I'm going to support her.
But I honestly think that, to me, is when you see the benefit of having a woman storyteller, because I do think that in another movie, it easily would have been, the perspective would have been diverted from Diana to Steve once he gets into the picture. It would start as her movie, and it would end as his. And that didn't happen. And I think that's, you know, I think that is in large part to a woman helming the movie and keeping the focus on it being Diana's story. But I think about if this movie had been made in, like, the 80s or something. Like, as soon as Steve Trevor comes into the picture, it's his movie. And it's his perspective, and it's his lens on Diana and all of it. And that didn't happen. And so, like, to me, that was where I saw, well, this is what happens when a woman helms a comic book or an action movie. Like, here it's focused on a woman. Because I honestly, you know, I could think of so many other movies where that would, you know, even movies where women are at the helm. At the end of the day, it's still from the lens, the gaze of a man, and that didn't happen with Steve. There was never a point where he diverted attention away from it being her story. He was always there to kind of be a supporting character to what her story was, and that impressed me. And he's dead, so now I know I sound horrible, but then at the point that there was era where they were like, let's just kill him. I was like, yeah, let's just kill him. And my friend was like, no. It was like 20 minutes into the movie. I was like, let's kill him. He's like, no.
Oh, man. That's so But, like, I would say, actually, like, one of the other cool Chris Pratt moments, which leads into something else, is Chris Pine, sorry, who the fuck knows, is in the gala, in the German gala. Wow, I know my history of this, people. I assure you. He tries to seduce Dr. Poison, aka Maru, who is, by the way, a character in the original Wonder Woman comic. I did link to the Lasso of Truth podcast, which is an amazing Wonder Woman podcast. Everyone should go listen to it. But Poison from the comics is just that amazing in the comics. In the movie, he goes and he puts a honeypot on her. And what's interesting, of course, is that he is a spy. Like, Steve is not there to like be the strongest guy on the screen. He's there to infiltrate and be sneaky and emotionally manipulative. He's Black Widow. And we haven't really seen that alleged inversion of gender roles in a movie like this before. And not only was it good to see him trying to seduce a woman for intelligence reasons, but he's also very good at it. So it was nice to see him be competent. And I appreciated that scene with Dr. Poison because it just really shows you how much of a mess she is. She's somebody who's emotionally damaged and who's definitely physically scarred, probably from her own work, but she's been an outsider she's an outsider. She's always been an outsider. And their whole conversation about talking about flames, it's just like he knows she's a sociopath and he's really playing this. It's funny, actually, one of my friends who's not really a comics person, the only thing she talked about when she left the movie theater was, oh my God, Dr. Poison. Oh my God.
I do have an issue with Dr. Poison, and I mentioned this on Twitter a couple of days ago. I don't.
Do tell.
The trope of disfigurement as evil is like hardcore ableism, and is a trope that is often used, especially like in Diana, like was fighting with a full face of makeup, very natural looking, but like her beauty was made a centerpiece, and by to invert that, Dr. Poison's disfigurement was made to highlight her evil, and that's a trope that's often used to perpetuate ideas of being disfigured or disabled as if not the reason that you're evil, a way to kind of identify you as evil, and that bothered me. And I actually learned that a couple of days ago, that she's actually a character, a canonical character within the Wonder Woman universe, and so I don't know how or if that was a part of it, but it's those little things, and especially when it comes to ableism, like casual ableism is so hardcore that it's done and people don't even realize that that's what's going on, but the idea that her disfigurement was used as kind of a symbol of her evil or a way to identify her as evil bothered me, because it especially in contrast to how beautifully lit and how like the focus on Diana's beauty in the way that she was framed, as opposed to Dr. Poison, like that to me stood out, and I thought I was like even overreacting, and I was like, thank God, because I thought I was overreacting, but if another disabled person noticed that, then that means it's probably there.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm hearing a high-pitched noise. Is anybody else hearing a random high-pitched noise?
No.
No? Okay, excellent. Moving right along, and thank you for raising that. It's a very legitimate observation. One of the other sort of weird remainder Scott Snyder-y things that I really spotted was, and this is not, it's funny because when you first hear Wonder Woman's mother saying, the men don't deserve you, the world of men don't deserve you, it feels really feminist, and I think we all had members of our family probably tell us that like men don't deserve us, and we've been told this to female friends of ours as well because the men, they're terrible. But the screenplay is written by Heidelberg, but the story has Scott Snyder as one of the co-writers. And somebody else had pointed out, and I think it's an interesting read of it, that there's a bit of an Ayn Rand line on being so good that the world doesn't deserve you to have saved it, which I think is particularly weird because we know at the end of this movie, and this is a huge concern I had about the movie being set in World War One, after she doesn't stop the Holocaust, right? She goes and and I haven't seen the other DC superhero movies because I heard they were bad. Sorry. But we know she's not like a known quantity and Batman already knew about really, and like the public knew about. So she's been in hiding in some way since World War One. So does Wonder Woman, because of the horrors of World War One, does she decide that that the world doesn't deserve her and like walk away and then not get involved in preventing the Holocaust? Like, what is this? What is that? Like, I basically have to watch a movie pretending that Diana was frozen in a block of ice after World War One, and like was unfrozen during the 70s to like join the women's rights movement. Like, I can't appreciate the movie otherwise. I need to suspend my disbelief about that. And it's a sort of weird Randian analysis. I felt really,
I don't know. I would imagine it would be that there's only so much that she could do alone.
But she's supposed to be.
Maybe she was fighting,
though.
But
yeah, but she's like a leader. I mean, that amazing scene on the trenches where everybody says, this has been in the trench line. This barrier hasn't moved for 4 years. I mean, and guys, like, this is real. To folks who don't know, World War One, which was literally hell, like people would literally be in a trench and not go anywhere for 4 years. Like, it was crazy. She goes and does the impossible thing. She breaks through the lines and she leads by getting out in front. And I just imagine that the world would know, even if it doesn't personally shoot Hitler or whatever, but like the world would know because she would be such an inspiration and such a leader for people.
I mean, the way, you kind of have to like headcanon and stuff because the movies only tell you so much, and unfortunately, like they don't fill in all these little bits and pieces. I mean, I think they do. They sort of kind of toe around the issue of World War II because Ares says the whole thing about how he sets up this peace agreement to lead to something worse, which everybody knows is World War II.
Right.
And I like to think that Diana doesn't put on, her Wonder Woman garb anymore because she knows she can't save the world because war is just always going to exist, but she still was involved in all these different movements just behind the scenes. Like, I could see her, like, saving people, but as like almost a shadowy figure just because she didn't want to, like, be a part of a larger thing anymore. I don't know. Like, it's, you kind of have to finagle it a little bit because, there is that history, and she did walk away, but I can't see her being completely uninvolved, just not recognizably involved. Because obviously, like, somebody's going to be like, who's this woman? She doesn't age. Like, I don't even, she'd have to falsify her records,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know how she got a job at the Louvre. Like,
yeah.
Does she have a social security number?
Oh my God! I literally thought that. I was like, so somebody had to get her a fake social security number and a whole I was getting deep into it. And my friend was like,
like my headcanon is that like she went back to Etta and Etta Candy was just like, yeah, girl, I can totally whip you up fake papers. Eventually, like she can't stay there because people are gonna be like, yo, Diana, you've been working here for like 50 years, man. Like eventually she has to move on.
Yeah, Etta Candy, I'm just heartbroken that we're not going to really get her again. I think the actress is great. I didn't always love what they did with her. I enjoyed her brandishing a sword and would have liked her to be a little bit less specifically a subject of humor. But I have lots of feelings about Etta Candy in general, though. That would take me on a long digression at this point. But she definitely helps stop some spies using a sword and shield standing in an alley.
She wasn't just a sad sap. I appreciated that.
Yes. Yeah. Which is so important.
Yeah. What confuses me and what I want to say worries, but is that they pretty much threw in like her two most notable supporting characters in this film, which makes me like wonder who they're gonna put in for her next film. Because I don't want Batman in her film. Like, he played perfect here where he was just a name. You know, like, I like connections. I like world building. It's one of my problems with the MCU, actually, is that their world building isn't that great when I think too deeply on it. You know, like, why is Tony Stark here? I don't know. He doesn't need to be here. But at the same time, like, you know, Steve Trevor, and I'm just saying, why is Iron Man on the Spider-Man Homecoming poster, like, twice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, it does, like, I'm like, you know, who are they going to put in for her supporting characters? Because she still has, like, a whole rogues gallery that they can go through. I don't think the Greek gods are dead. I think they're lying.
Yeah, I hope not.
You know, so they're still villains, but I'm like, you know, who are you gonna put in for her, like, supporting now? Like, since Etta is definitely gone, it's been 100 years, and Steve is, you know, he blew up, like, he gone too. So yeah, I'm both interested and just a little bit concerned, because yeah, I would have loved to see Etta in more, you know, but I don't know, maybe reincarnation will be a thing, and we'll get like one of Etta's descendants, and she'll be like, I don't know, I'm not good with names, but, you know, something like that.
It'll be like in Earth 1. She'll be a bisexual sorority girl.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Etta can be third, and she'll have a massive crush on Wonder Woman, and they'll be adorable together. That's what I need now. I realize this. Make it happen. Yeah, I think that, you know, they have her, you know, it's like she's the only woman. She goes from being one of everyone is a woman back on Paradise Island to then, as soon as she's no longer in England, being like the only woman for quite a big stretch of time, which is always hard. I mean, and the makeup of that crew is of the correct team. I have rarely seen more split opinions between people whose judgment I trust than people's takes on Chief and Charlie and like that, the correct team. I've seen indigenous writers talk about how Chief is great, and like his clothes are actually historically accurate, and like the actor is like from the people that he says he's from. He like talks about it, and that the fact that they actually acknowledge like that Steve Trevor's people are the reason his people are fucked up.
Right.
Was cool.
Apparently,
but then I also heard
the actor said.
Yeah.
Apparently, the actor who played Chief like actually had a bit of input into the script, from what I read. Mm-hmm. So that was something, like, I had read an interview with him, and he said that, like, he kind of talked about, like, as he was on set, had input into the script. So I think a lot of that was him.
I bet it.
So
yeah, I'm sure. And then, I mean, with Charlie, like, somebody was complaining, like, oh, Charlie never gets to shoot the gun. And I was like, no, Charlie's not there to shoot the gun. Charlie is there to sing. I thought one of the most beautiful things with, like, with Steve and Diana were them, like, ultimately valuing Charlie, like, not because he's the best crack shot, which we never actually get to see him do, but because he sings. And he's obviously someone with PTSD, I mean, probably shell shock. And people still see him as a person of value and still want him with them. And that was incredibly touching, actually, for me at least. Mm-hmm. I mean, Diana, looking at all the victims of the trenches and, like, you know, I'm curious, like, wow. I actually really want someone to write about this movie from a disability perspective, like, from that scene and so many other pieces. I think it's a voice I'd like to hear.
Yeah, I actually thought that was really well done in terms of how they portrayed how he was clearly dealing with PTSD, but was still a part of the team. That actually choked me up a little bit. I
didn't even notice a bit about him not shooting the gun. Like, that's actually, that makes that better to me, actually. Because, he doesn't. Yeah. And, you know, he's still valued. And I love the moment where, you know, he says, like, you know, I can't shoot, maybe I shouldn't be here. And Diana tells him, like, you know, but who would sing for us?
Yeah.
Like that was such a great team moment, like, you know, and it showed that she valued things other than, you know, being a warrior or being able to fight and such. Like she valued him as a person and as a friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really touching for real. Like I think one of the most touching moments of the movie. I mean, World War I is just so horrific in such specific ways. I was interested. I like that they chose World War I as a setting because it's such a war in which the specifics of the map of how things came to be are so complex that Ares, as an explanation, like addresses the fact that so many people in the audience probably don't understand the history that made the creative situation that they were in there. But, you know, I really was mostly just concerned about what the hell does this mean about World War II. But one of the things that was just kind of a little bit mind-blowing was like a major character is the actual General Ludendorff. I don't think I've seen a superhero movie do that before. I don't think like all of the historical figures in the first Avenger were basically parallels. Like it's you know, Howard Stark, not Howard Hughes, which is a good thing because that man is freaking racist.
Right.
And in Wonder Woman, it's the actual General Ludendorff. And I checked. I asked my husband. I was like, did he die by getting stabbed in the chest by a sword on the roof? And the answer was no. But that's okay. I'm just a little bit a little bit intrigued by that particular choice, and I guess in part because nobody knows anybody who was alive then at all at this point. So, and I don't know though. I would say that even though I find that wildly entertaining, the whole final fight scene was not that great of a fight scene, in spite of the great performance being put on. Like it was just a little bit too CGI and repetitive for me. When we first get the reveal of who Ares actually is in that, not in the rooftop, in the it's not a bird's nest, but like at the top floor of the base, I found it to be completely chilling. I love that we only saw him in reflection and how understated he is because he's just, you know, a member. He's just a peer of the House of Lords. He's not like this huge ripped diesel guy. I loved that choice. I thought it was initially presented really, really disturbingly in ways that worked. Like just you only see his reflection. Like he cuts back and forth between being through a glass, you're reflecting into the glass or through a glass. So it's sort of like he's a mirror image of us. He's a reflection of us. And he's just right out of her grasp. I thought that was really good cinematography in that sequence. But then once the fight actually happened, the fight was dull.
Nothing could really beat the No Man's Land sequence.
Yeah.
That
God, that was
really
beautiful.
the only reason to be in the movie. Like I was like, okay, we can leave now. So I don't know if any action sequence in the movie could actually beat that. So
actually, true. And you know what I found out is that the dudes didn't want her to shoot the No Man's Land sequence. That was Patty Jenkins.
What?
For real.
For
LA
real?
Times. Mm-hmm.
No.
The LA Times story,
well,
she talked about how the guys didn't understand. Well, she didn't say the guys, but she was like, the other folks didn't understand why she wanted to do the No Man's Land scene as such a big set piece. And I mean, and the cinematography of like Wonder Woman with the shield and the bullets bouncing off of it is going to be a gift that everybody will be posting from here on out of themselves standing up to sexism. Like that is going to be everybody's gift. But yeah, dudes did want it.
Wow. Because that was like one of the most iconic bits of the entire film. I mean, that's
that's the movie. Honestly,
if the movie had done that scene and then like ended after like, you know, Steve and her got in the room and then, you know, war's over or whatever, I would have been happy. I would have been like, all right, cool, pack it up, let's go home. Let's play the Saya song. Because I didn't like Ares' armor. Like I'm a snob that way, I guess. Like I just didn't like the armor, and I liked the reveal. Like I thought the reveal was well done. But like the fight scene was the only thing that invested me in the fight scene was what was happening around it. Like Diana's emotions, you know, Steve leaving, like seeing, you know, their crew like, you know, huddled together, like preparing for death and stuff. Like that stuff was way more interesting than watching like lightning and fire.
Yeah.
Like,
Agreed.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was cool that, you know, like, we saw Gal's baby, you know, because she was like 5 months pregnant apparently when they filmed that bit. So, but yeah, there was too much CGI. You know, it wasn't. It was meh. Like, there was so much else going on in the movie that was done so much better.
Do you think that was a budgetary thing? Do you think that
Maybe.
might have been like, okay, we've run out of budget, so let's just do a heavily CGI fight scene at the end and call it a day?
I think so, because I know this movie was like this movie had the smallest budget of like any DCEU movie. So, like, I'm sure for Wonder Woman 2, Warner Brothers is just going to be like, you know, like that GIF from Wolf of Wall Street where he's just throwing the money off the boat, and it's just going to be like it's just going to be on Patty Jenkins.
I hope so. She should direct all of their movies.
Sorry.
I think I mean, they want to be successful, right? So
that. Well, I'm just saying, like, come on. Yeah. So yeah, that the fight scene was mad. I love the scene before it, like when, you know, Diana thinks she killed Ares, and then like nothing stops, and she's all upset, and Steve just breaks down, and he's like, I wish I could tell you it's just one bad guy, because I thought that was so encompassing of, like you were saying earlier, you know, World War One was just this big mess. You know, it was terrible and it was horrific, and, you know, all these new weapons were being introduced, and people were just dying left and right for like essentially no reason, and there wasn't any one specific person that you could blame. Like, it wasn't just anybody, you know, like there wasn't any easy bad guy. And so I thought, like, that was great. I love how he's like, you know, I'm to blame too. Like, I'm a part of it because I'm a part of the system, you know. And it called back to like when Chief had mentioned, you know, when Diana asked, like, you know, who took your freedom, who killed your people, and he's like, his people, you know, because it's true. Like, Steve's a part of that system, and it was one of the things I liked about Steve. He acknowledged, he's like, yeah, I'm to blame too. I'm a part of the system, you know. And Diana could save the world because she's not a part of that system. So yeah, so like, all that stuff was cool, and then we got lightning, and I was like, the lightning's whatever. Like,
yeah, I agree. One thing also just is like, you know, Ares is always like a good Diana villain, but, you know, where were all the female goddesses? Even if they were dead or removed in some way. I mean, that could be part of the characters that we see in a future Wonder Woman movie, perhaps. But but I like, why was she made by Zeus? Like, where were all the goddesses? I will say that the movie's use of the lasso of truth was really excellent. I really liked how people would like lasso themselves, or I guess Steve really would lasso himself to be like, no, I am not lying. And we know the lasso is from Hestia, so Hestia existed. But there was really no reason to have them all be made by Zeus.
Yeah, I didn't like the Zeus bit. Like, you know, I'd rather it be like, you know, all the gods had a hand, and one of their main patrons was at like Aphrodite. I liked the small reference to Aphrodite, you know, all the Amazons coming from the sea. But I was like, really? Zeus is like, he made an island full of like Amazon warrior women? Like, Zeus, the guy who turned into a swan to get some? Like, that guy?
I understand it might be just because Zeus is an easy pop culture trope. Like, if you don't know anything about mythology, like, you know about Zeus, kind of like he's a easy go-to for people to recognize. I know. But you know, people are like, oh yeah, Zeus. Like,
yeah. It felt weirdly more Christian to me than Greek, you know, like Zeus creates mankind, and then his son, you know, Ares doesn't like mankind, and he corrupts mankind, and even that scene with Diana and him surrounded by the trees gave me like Garden of Eden vibes, and he's like, we can rebuild the world, and I was like, this is really creepy, you know, and like Diana kind of ends up being like the savior figure, as it were, because it seemed like Zeus just kind of gave Hippolyta the baby. I don't think they had a relationship, but
yes, that
he was like, you need to carry this child because she's going to, save the world or be like, the God killer or whatever. So yeah, it probably was easier, but I don't love it. I did love the way they depicted those scenes because it was like all those Greek Renaissance paintings, and I thought that was like really well done. But yeah, I wasn't in love with that.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right about the Christian connotations, and I hadn't pieced it together, but it's definitely true. Speaking of as a young girl, though, the actress who played her as a young girl, I thought was fabulous, and the momentum in that scene of her running through the town was so strong. One thing I actually I only really made a big to-do about because some of the public dialogue has been so stupid is I was very glad that the actress who they cast as Diana was fair-skinned because Gal Gadot is white. I don't know why. I'm like, let me tell you, I'm Jewish. I know these things. Gal Gadot is white. She has a name that sounds Middle Eastern because people started using names like that when Jewish people moved to Israel.
I don't even know why this is a debate that people are having.
Because they wanted an excuse to say she's a woman of color. They wanted to be like, so
I don't understand why this is happening.
But
yeah, that article came from like comicbook.com, right?
Yeah, comicbook.com.
That played it terrible.
It was
one place did it and people ran with it, and I don't understand that people ran with it.
Yeah,
I think because they want the cookies,
Exactly.
And it's like, no, you don't get those cookies. I'm not giving you that. Like,
Thank
I'm
you.
hoarding those until you give me something legit here. Like when Batgirl is Latina, like people have been fan casting that one girl from the 100. I'll hand you a cookie, but until then, they're mine.
Yeah. And just to be clear, there's plenty of Jewish people of color in Israel and elsewhere, but she is not one of them. Mm-hmm. She's tan because she spends a lot of time outside. Her small child self is very pale. Thank you. There you go. These are facts. So, bringing Jewish history to the people. So, I have had various people sort of say that they thought that the movie, was really one of the main superhero movies that has really centered itself on acts of heroism as a motivation itself. Like Diana wants to do good in the world, and that is her motivation. And I'm very glad to have a female character who's not motivated by revenge after having been violated by a man. But do you think that toxic masculinity and Scott Snyder perhaps having internalized some of that might be why this movie's tone was so different? And I feel weird saying this because I know Desiree likes those movies, but do you think the fact that she's a woman and she doesn't have to be grimdark, there could be a gendered interpretation for why this movie went in a different way with tone and with the hero's attitude towards heroism than the others. So maybe that's just crazy, but I thought that was interesting.
I guess it's the limitations of an audio podcast because I'm in a face that I'm thinking about it, but I know the answer.
Yeah. Because I'm definitely of the Scott Snyder as an Ayn Rand fan. He'll tell you this; it's public knowledge. You can see that in the stories. I mean, I enjoy Steve Ditko, and Steve Ditko is an Ayn Rand fan too. Being an Ayn Rand fan does not mean I will not enjoy your art, but it definitely impacts what your art says. And I definitely was curious if anybody else kind of smelled that around the edges of there, but that's okay. It can be just me.
I've never read Ayn Rand, so I know there's a lot of the debate around her, but I've never read it, so I'm not educated enough to really comment on it. So
no worries.
I feel bad. I'm I feel so uneducated. I've never read Atlas Shrugged.
I haven't read her either. Oh, I haven't read it either. You don't have to read it. You just have to be aware. It's not good.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like, it's familiar. But
No,
don't worry about it. It was just a thought. But
I
you know what has
haven't.
been really positive?
Study it. Yeah, but like having read Ayn Rand, it's not good stuff. First of all, she wasn't the best writer in the world. Honestly, I wonder if it has more to do with the idea of femininity and nurturing and protection and all of that, as opposed to, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That women would be motivated by idea of being protected.
You know, I was worried. Oh, sorry.
But it doesn't necessarily
breaking up a bit.
come off as, hello?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering if it would be that, the idea that Wonder Woman as a woman would be more motivated to protect and murder, as it would be being driven by revenge or trying to defend somebody who already been hurt or a loss. I don't know. Again, pulling that out of thin air as well.
But I was worried. Like, if you had told me that Wonder Woman says, "Oh, how cute" to a baby in this movie, I would have been really, really ready to recoil and be angry. But like, the movie doesn't make her be like, "Oh, all women want to be mothers." It was more just like, "I've never seen a baby before. That's really cute. Here's ice cream. Wow." I think that like it definitely could have gone much more in the direction of like, essentialism about how women want to take care of others, how women are mothers and caregivers. And the movie really did not delve into that at all. And again, the script is written by a dude. Like, that is a fact. The screenplay is written by a dude. But Patty Jenkins, as directing that scene of her running into a little baby in the street, didn't make it be like about, "Oh, here's my secret motherly urges. I always wanted to be a mom," just like we made Black Widow say. Sorry, I have feelings about that.
But I also I read something earlier that said that the script had a lot of script doctors, and so even though it was written by a dude, that the script doctors played a huge role in kind of smoothing out some of these things, and maybe that may script doctors are often women, are often marginalized people who don't get credit. So that could be a thing as well, that if you had a lot of different people coming in and kind of smoothing out the edges and kind of adding these nuances to the script, that even though there's one guy getting the credit for it, there's a whole bunch of other people that really kind of made these little moments what they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way credits are litigated, it can be hard to really know much more than that. But yeah, Patty Jenkins definitely, has such a huge role in the movie's biggest moment and in everything else throughout it, for real. One of the cool things coming out of the movie, though, has been seeing how many women are talking about how much it resonated for them, like a lot of women talking about how they cried in the theater, etc. I was intrigued by Sci-Fi Network was organizing to fundraise money to have low-income girls be able to go see the movie together in the theater. And it's interesting. Like Kedra and I really track examples of people in the fan communities organizing for a cause collectively, and that was definitely a very organic moment of activism coming around the movie. But the ACLU sent a thing to their, I'm sorry, it wasn't in an email blast, but there was a post on the ACLU's website about how important watching the movie was because of how women are discriminated against in Hollywood. So
yeah, and they did a really, really good job of kind of explaining why it was important. Mm-hmm. And I think there was another, and I can't remember the name of the organization, but it was like another women in film organization that also did a campaign when people see a movie, like, why that was important. So there's a lot of, like, little things going on from different groups and organizations and individuals that were really trying to get the word out about why this particular weekend was so crucial.
crucial. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other side is I definitely know a lot of people in my network who won't watch the movie because Gal Gadot was in the Israeli army, and I'm definitely not going to tell somebody that they need to watch the movie in spite of that. I mean, the thing is, like, there isn't nobody has called a boycott of the movie, so I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong by enjoying and supporting the movie. But I'm also not going to tell somebody that they have to go watch it or else they're a bad feminist. When their, like, concern is, about, like, her having said stuff, which is, if you ask me, messed up stuff about the Palestine-Israel conflict. So, but, we have actors who say stuff that's problematic all the time. So, yeah. But I didn't want to not acknowledge that. I definitely think that there's been a real range of responses from different people. And I there was a really cool post that that someone I know did on talking about how the movie would have been better had there been a female black woman screenwriter, and, like, made a really great case for it. And then literally,
I did read that.
And then literally, like, moments later, people were, like, attacking him. Women were attacking him and for not supporting the movie enough. And that's just so disappointing to have people use it as a cudgel to attack people who are actually just asking for the movie to be better.
Yeah, something can be good and still need improvement, and we should be open to that critical thought and such, because I liked Wonder Woman. I think it's done good things. I'm really glad that it's broken all these records and such, and it's hopefully opening up more opportunities, but it doesn't mean that there's no room for improvement, that there were no spots that it could have been better, that it can push forward, as a concept and as a franchise. So, and, like, it's that whole fandom thing where, like, you're really, really protective over what you love, but you have to realize, like, what you love is never going to be perfect, So you do have to be open to, like, these critical things because, it's just things could always be better, and we should always just strive to make our media more, inclusive and as the best as we can make it. So it's important to have those have that dialogue, like, you bring up the ableism, aspect that you were talking about earlier, Kedra. Like, I'm privileged in that area, so I didn't even think about that, but that's a great point, and that's a great thing to discuss. And we need those types of discussions so that people can be more educated and that we can learn to be more empathetic, to those groups that, we're not a part of. So, yeah, shutting down those conversations is just, like, that's not doing any good. So, yeah, I'm not for that at all. Like, yeah, I like the movie, but I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, no, you can't criticize it. Because there are things in the film that can be criticized, as far as, these topics go. So, yeah.
So I have two big questions that I'm going to ask you guys now. I'm going to start with one. I'm going to let you know what they both are. We're going to do one and the other. So one is, just to give you a minute to think about it, like, do we have recommended fan casting for who we want to see in the next movie, especially the women of color who the movie needs to have? But before that, I think, Desiree, you probably have some suggestions for Wonder Woman comics for folks to read. I have a strong suspicion.
Oh, okay. I really, really recommend GLA League of One. It's not a specific one. Well, it's about Wonder Woman, but it's not from, like, one of her runs. But it's one of my favorite stories with her. The art is absolutely gorgeous. I'm probably going to butcher this name, but it's by Christopher Moeller. And you can buy it in trade, but it's just called GLA Illegal One. If anybody has ever been on, like, Tumblr or something, that scene where, like, Wonder Woman's with Superman and she's like, hey, look in the distance, and then she kicks him in the face? That's from this book. Like, you want to see the full context, she literally takes a rock with Batman's name on it, and she like knocks him out with it. It's glorious, you know. But it has a great story. It's not just about her taking out the League or anything like that. You know, and the art is positively beautiful, and I love the lettering. The lettering was great, and it's a great mythology. I can't speak tonight. Got a great mythology to it that really emphasizes, like, you know, Diana and such. So I love this one. Let me think. George Perez's run is also available in a volume. I love that. You know, if you like the older classic stuff, I think that's great. Obviously, Greg Rucka's run, too. You know, that's another great one. That's also available in a volume. I actually just finished reading that today. Gail Simeone's run is another one people really like. You see, Paul Dini and Alex Ross wrote a story called A Spirit of Truth, and that's one of my all-time favorite stories for her. I mean, it's Alex Ross, so you know the artwork is going to be absolutely drop-dead gorgeous. And Paul Dini's writing is just so deep, and, you know, it reads more like a novel than it does like a traditional comic, which I actually really liked. So, you know, there's actually no word bubbles at all in the entire comic. I think you can buy it, like her story, in a singular trade, in a singular graphic novel. If not, there's one where it's just called The World's Greatest Superheroes, and it has one of the best stories for Superman I've ever read, a great Batman story, a story for Shazam, and a story for the Justice League, and then it includes Wonder Woman story too. So that's another one that, like, I have a really high up there. And then the Rebirth going on right now has been fantastic. Really, really like the Rebirth run. Nicola and Leanne.
Oh my God.
Yeah, their artwork has been great. I've loved it. You know, that's been really fantastic. I really liked not the first volume of Trinity, but the rest of the Trinity books, not the current Rebirth ones. Those are good too. That image that's now kind of like become a little infamous, where Diana's carrying Bruce and Clark on her back, like, I got this. That's from the Trinity run, if anybody wants to read that. I'm a huge fan of the Trinity. I love their dynamic. But I also love the original Trinity run, which, trying to see if I can find it on my messy shelves. I'm in the process of moving, so everything's a little disorganized at the moment.
So I just tweeted out the link for the JLA, Justice League of America, League of One, and then Trinity, just like for noobs, is like, you know, Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman as a team together, basically. And I really found the art, in particular on the Wonder Woman, the new Wonder Woman stories, to just really just grab me. And I thought that, I know that DC Comics Bombshells storylines features like a ton of LGBTQ characters. Specifically, basically everybody's a queer woman in the entire DC Bombshells. Like, it's like a side series that's not taking place in the main DC universe, so you don't have to read other comics to understand it. And I've kind of wondered, that might be a good thing for new readers.
Yeah, if you want something that's totally Elseworld, you know, that has nothing to do with the the main continuity or anything, Bombshells is a great series because it's all Elseworld stuff. I have the first 2 trades. I think there are 3 trades out. You know, if you like Diana and Mira together, you know, they had like a relationship for a little bit, and then, you know, Diana like has a thing with Steve, and then, you know, like you got, yeah, just like everybody is pretty much a queer woman. It's pretty like amazing. Yeah, so I do like that series. That's another just really fun series to read for Diana. There's also a trade out right now, and it's like Wonder Woman's Greatest Battles. That one is just kind of like a collection of various stories from her, all collected into like one trade. So, you know, people are looking to just kind of get a taste of a little bit of everything. That way they can kind of look deeper into, you know, what runs they'd like to better research. That's a good one to pick up. And there's
Cool.
probably like a ton. Wonder Woman 77. If you're a fan of the Linda Carter original TV show, there's the first trade for that book is out right now. So that's also like a good one to pick up if you're a fan of like that original television show.
Cool. Thank you.
This is actually super educational for me, so thank you. Seriously, because I'm not a reader of the comics. I'm like, ooh. So thanks.
Well, and I would just repeat for those listening to the show who aren't big comics geeks, like you heard it here in one of the Wonder Woman series. Wonder Woman's childhood girlfriend is Mira, aka Aquawoman. Wonder Woman and Aquawoman were each other's first kiss. So if that isn't motivating, I don't know what to tell you. And then I just wondered if people had some thoughts about fan casting. Jermaine, aka Jermaine Design, had tweeted Rutina Wesley for Nubia, and that was going to be my choice. She's amazing. She's ripped. Like in Queen Sugar, she's ripped. I'm like, why are you so ripped? You're just a normal person. Like she's ripped like she's about to kick someone's ass, and she's a journalist. I don't get it. So she would be so great. I want her. So yeah.
I love. Can I just say I love all of his fan casts. Like they're just like all like on point and like fantastic. Like I can't fan cast. I'm not good at it. You know, people are like, oh, who do you want as like Starfire? I'm like, I don't know. An Afro-Latina actress would be really cool. Like, do you have names? Like, I'm not good at it at all. So yeah, like whatever he comes up with is usually really great. You know, just like it makes me happy that the casting has like, you know, gone pretty diverse. They've taken like I don't want to say risks, but they've gone out of the box. You know, with a lot of the castings for like, you know, the Amazons and some of their other characters in the DCEU, they're not standing like strictly with, you know, the would-be canon. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just, you know, I want more Amazons. I want more like Artemis. I want more Philippus. I want more, you know, Nubia. Like, you know, because there was a great thread on the things that they could do. She has untapped potential. You know, you could do a lot with her. You know, and there's still so much great potential to Diana's, like, you know, Themyscira and the Amazons and such. So, but yeah, I can't do fan cast. I'm like, that person with the face and the hair, I guess. I don't know. I'm not good at it.
Well, today I announced I'm very firmly behind Harry Neff from Transparent, is that she should be Donna Troy. Now, I know that there probably will never be anything with Donna Troy in it because Donna Troy is confusing, but I was literally looking at Nicola Scott's art on Wonder Woman, and some like fashion magazine pictures of Harry Neff came up, and I was just like, they have the same eyes, dear Lord. And I just thought that she had such like a sensitivity and soulfulness in her look, and she looks enough like Gal Gadot as well. And it would be really awesome to have a trans woman playing one of the Amazons, especially Wonder Woman's sister from another plane of complicated origin stories. But I'm like really strongly about this, even though I know that nobody will even do anything with Donna Troy. She looks so much like her. It's crazy. Kedra, did you have any fan casting thoughts there?
So the Rutina Wesley was the one that I saw, and I was just like, hell yeah. So that's pretty much me.
It was so great to see so many.
And I'm kind of like about Nubia in general as a concept, as a character, but if it's Rutina Wesley, she needs to be in more things anyway. She was underutilized in True Blood. She's doing well in Queen Sugar, but she's meant to kick some ass. So I would like to see it.
I know she's too ripped to not be in action movies. She looks like a superhero already. Like put her in something. Yeah, I agree. Her arms are amazing. I loved having so many. I don't want to just have so many visibly, physically strong female bodies on screen is really unprecedented. Like, I don't want to like body shame anybody, but like I frequently like look at action movies where their women are not as they have smaller arms than me and I don't work out nearly enough. And it's like you are so scared that you might not give one man an erection that you can't actually show women with muscle. Like, that's pretty pathetic. And this movie was just like, we're going to have a range of body types. Now, I don't think they had any plus size women in the Amazons, and that is a mistake. Yeah. But they had a range of different kinds of female strong bodies. And just seeing all that was like super hot and very necessary, and something that I just haven't even seen other movies that purport to be feminist do. So, well, thank you guys for joining us. I just want to make sure you have an opportunity to tell folks and our listeners where they can find you online. Desiree, where are you on the internet so folks can say how awesome you are?
You actually, if you go to my website, latinasmediamusings.com, I'm always there, you know, any kind of updates, you know, or I try to keep my site as updated as possible with things that I'm doing, or you can follow me at Boricua Desiree, you know, on Twitter. So yeah, I hopefully have some new articles that are going to be up soon. But yeah, that's where y'all can find me.
And what about you, Kedra?
You can find me personally at KBC on Twitter, and then for the Learned Fangirl, we're at PLF blog. And then we're also on Tumblr at learnedfangirl.tumblr.com. And at thelearnedfangirl.com, which is where you can read all the articles that we publish.
And you and I are doing that tweet chat on the 21st at #PopPoliticsChat. And of course, folks can find me as ever, always on Twitter at ELANA_Brooklyn. And that new piece that I wrote about bisexual representation and the bi erasure that goes on even in our own minds as bisexual people is up on the comics beat right now. I will pin it to the top. It is pinned to the top of my Twitter profile right now, so you can see the article. I'm pretty happy with it. Again, ELANA_Brooklyn. So thank you for joining us. Now, if you came into the show late, don't worry. This podcast is going to be downloadable from iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, so you'll be able to listen to it from the beginning. You'll be able to share it with your friends and give it another listen, save it to your phone, and we will be back again next week with another episode for you. Remember, it's Graphic Policy at iTunes and SoundCloud and Stitcher, and our website is graphicpolicy.com, which is our blog about comics and geek culture, new content, new stories, new news every day, and we'll see you next week. Keep it geeky.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.